Hey, welcome to the Humanistic Approach. So this is known as the third force in psychology, emphasizes personal growth, assumes that people are innately good, and unlike behaviorism and psychoanalysis, the approach is on the conscious experience, free will, and the capacity for reaching your full potential or self-actualization. So it kind of comes from a different perspective than the other approaches. So the core principles or assumptions of this approach is that it's holistic. So holistic means it looks at the whole person. So in Gestalt psychology, they say the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Emphasizes free will and personal choice over your life and making decisions. Assumes that people want to reach self-actualization, or they have this innate drive to be the best they can be and reach their full potential. And it also looks at phenomenology, which is basically lived experiences of people, subjective experience, how people are experiencing the world. So these are the key kind of assumptions, really. So the pioneer is Abraham Maslow, kind of revolutionized psychology by actually studying healthy, successful people, whereas traditionally psychology is studying unhealthy people and mentally ill people, say, or animals. Um, so this established the foundation for what's called positive psychology. Maslow argued that the traditional psychology view become too focused on when things go wrong and weakness, and it kind of neglected the human strengths, virtues, and potential for growth. So the self-actualization is about people have this sort of desire or will to reach their full potential and be the best they can be. So he came up with this, what's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So at the basic level, we have a need for physiological needs, so food, water, shelter, and sleep. Then we need safety needs like security, you need a job and healthy. The next need is love and belonging. So we need friendships, family, and intimacy. And then we need self-esteem, confidence, achievement, and self-respect. And then finally, you can reach the top, which is self-actualization, where you can be creative, problem solving, and feel like you're being the best version of yourself. So these are the basic needs, and you kind of work your way up to a higher level. Now, this is good in theory. It's kind of a Western theory, but if you live in a slum in India and you barely got the food and shelter, then there's no way you're going to get higher up the hierarchy. So it's kind of a maybe culturally specific or culturally bound, and it depends on your personal circumstances. And even if you are in a culture where you have all the opportunities and all the things that you need here, some people are happy just plodding on. They don't want to kind of, achieve their maximum potential, say. Characteristics of what a self-actualizing person is. So an accurate perception of reality. So a person will see a situation clearly without distortion, and they can distinguish between genuine and fake people. They also have an acceptance of self and others. So they accept their own flaws, and those others without excessive guilt or criticism. They have a strong moral standard, so they have clear ethical principles, and the peak experiences, they frequently experience moments of joy and wonder. So they're probably the sort of people who are spending their time doing the things they enjoy. So Maslow studied people like Albert Einstein, these high IQ individuals, high achievers, Eleanor Roosevelt, to identify what sort of characteristics these people have. I think he might have studied Mother Teresa as well, I'm not sure. But these kind of high achieving people, and do they have any certain traits, say, or behaviors that help them to reach this sort of human potential? So Carl Rogers looked at what's called the person-centered approach or person-centered therapy. So this emphasizes the therapeutic relationship between the client and the therapist. And it kind of changed counseling really by shifting the focus from the therapist as the expert to the client who basically solves their own problems. Things are reflected back to them and they try and come up with their own solutions rather than a therapist telling you what they should be doing, say. So Rogers believed that people have this innate tendency towards self-actualization, which he called actualizing tendency. And this drive towards growth and fulfillment could be facilitated through the right therapeutic sort of conditions. And that allows the clients to discover their own solutions and develop greater self-awareness. So these are the core conditions for therapy. You've got congruence, so the therapist must be authentic and transparent. So not being fake. They need to match their own inner experiences with their outward behaviour. So they need to be true to their own values. Unconditional positive regard. So you need to have complete acceptance of the client without judging them. That then allows the client to feel more open, because if people feel like they're being judged, they'll shut down and put a wall up. And they need to be empathetic and understanding. So they need to be able to understand. You need to be able to walk a mile in their shoes to understand things from their point of view. So you need all these three conditions really. Then you'll hopefully move towards greater psychological health and self-actualization. It kind of empowers the client really. So there's self-concept theory. So we have the ideal self, the person we would like to become. You have your self-image, which is how you see yourself at the moment. And if the gap between the self-image and the ideal self is too big, that's called incongruent. So ideally, you want to overlap to be congruent. And he also was interested in self-worth, how much we value ourselves, which is basically influenced by experiences and relationships with other people. So the psychological problems can arise when there's an incongruence between these two, ideal self and self-image. And by helping the client to close that gap, they can then develop a more realistic self-concept and greater self-acceptance, and that can then lead to better mental health, personal growth. It's a bit like if your self-image was you want to be a doctor, and that's ideally where you want to be, but at the moment you're kind of like, an undergrad, you might have a big gap. So the closer you get that gap, the more fulfilled you're going to be and the happier you're going to be. So the pros and cons of this approach. So it's a therapeutic approach, does have quite good success rates, puts the power in terms of the client rather than the therapist. It's applicable across a diverse number of populations and cultures. On the downside, if it emphasizes intrinsic motivation, that means the person's got to want to change from within. So you can't kind of, maybe it won't work as well otherwise if they're not intrinsically motivated. Focuses on individual potential and growth, and student-centered learning approaches. So it's got an educational impact and a therapeutic impact as well. So limitations. It's an overly optimistic view. Again, it's kind of assuming that everybody is innately good, which could be the wrong assumption in some people. However, a good thing of that, I suppose, is that you're being non-judgmental as well, and if you don't have those sort of biased interpretations to begin with, it would affect the therapeutic relationship and maybe what you see in the person. Emphasizes on individualism, might not be the same across collectivist cultures, and it's been scientifically criticised for lacking empirical research. But despite those, counselling is a very popular therapy. Normally, if you go to the doctor and you've got some issue, you'll probably get referred to counselling at some point. And in a way, it is more of a positive approach. It's looking to help you achieve. But again, it might not be maybe not that effective if you've got clinical depression or something, maybe. And it's also focused on free will. It's not focused too much on going back to childhood and things. So some people might not want to go back and talk about their childhood. So this is more about looking forward and looking at free will and choices that the person can make. So there is a psychodynamic video as well that I've done if you want to watch that, because the two approaches are kind of polar opposites. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something about the humanistic approach.